Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, help me stand. I am tired, I am weak, and I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on.
Hello everyone, welcome to Love Them Both. This is a talk show and documentary show on the social problems and world problems of our time, the growing world problems, growing social problems of our time, and their solutions. We analyze these problems and logically and identify their causes and solutions because we know what the solutions are. And to come to these conclusions, I have a master's degree in math. I'm not the smartest knife in the drawer, but I'm a logical person. And so you have to start with an authority that you have proven is defendable, and that is the scriptures. In many quarters, that may not be very popular today, but they have stood the test of time. So just quickly, several proofs of this authority. The Bible is proven by its historical accuracy. The advent of modern archaeology has, in time, turned up verification over and over of the events in the Bible. They thought King David at one time wasn't a real figure because there was no archaeological evidence of him. And in recent decades, they found coins in Jerusalem with his subscription on them. Believe it or not, the Bible's not a scientific book, but it's scientifically accurate where it does touch on such facts. Promises were made to Abraham that his offspring would be as many as the stars of the heaven and the sand of the sea. Too many to count, innumerable. But at the time that was written, 2000 BC, they didn't have big telescopes. All the stars they knew of were what you could see with the naked eye. And they could only see about 3,000 stars. They were not innumerable then. But the Bible knew that in reality, the stars in the universe were innumerable, which time has proven to be the case. So scientific accuracy, there's internal consistency of the authors. It was written by 40 different authors in 3 different languages, and they don't contradict each other. They're consistent. They really don't contradict each other. The message is God's plan to create and redeem man for salvation in his kingdom. And a fourth proof is its prophecies. There are hundreds of prophecies that predicted the birthplace of Jesus Christ, for example, several in Bethlehem, several hundred years in advance. 2,300 years ago, there were prophecies predicting the return of the Jews to Jerusalem in the rebirth of the state of Israel that happened in 1948. And there are many more prophecies. So there is prophetic confirmation of this authority. Finally, there's a personal authority confirmation. If you get into its pages, surrender your heart to God and apply it, you will find out it transforms you and your life. God can use it to educate you and transform your life. So that being said, as I said, I'm logical. I like to cite my authority. This talk show and documentary is about the crisis of our time. In this area, we're having throughout the country, really, we're having kind of an epidemic of police murders, of people killings of citizens who should not be killed, coming out into the open because of the cell phone, mainly, I believe, that they didn't used to have. And we've had, in Pittsburgh here, there's been, at the Woodland Hills School District, there's been something on the order of 15 sort of drive-by type shootings of youth. in the last 3 years, I understand something on that order. This is the kind of problem we're talking about, and we want to know its solutions. We're going to find them. We can find them through the Scripture. So there's fornication, there's abortion, there's homosexual marriage, breakdown of the family. That's where these gangs are coming from. Kids turn to gangs when they can't get when the adults are too wrapped up in their own interests and don't show the kids love and upbringing. The kids turn to other kids in the form of gangs for recognition. They think it's love. It's really not, but it's a belongingness. So these are the kind of problems that are solved, that have spiritual and moral solutions. So Jesus spoke of a time around after the state of Israel was reborn, that there would be a time of supreme world crisis would then happen, basically over the state of Israel, as we're seeing form today. And God would have to intervene to stop that, both to save Israel, but also to save mankind from destroying himself in destroying himself. And the good news is that Christ will save those who repent, surrender to him, and believe in him, and he'll have to judge those who reject him. But the good news, the good times will then follow. So our problems will be gone. The kind of problems we're having today will not occur anymore. And the world will become a place of peace and joy. It says in Isaiah chapter 11, the wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid. The calf and the young lion and fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. They shall not hurt or destroy in all my holy mountain. So this is, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. So this is good news. People are afraid God's going to take some pleasures away from us, but he's going to give us better ones. So today's program is going to be about the problem of the disrespect being shown for human life by police when they are acting, when they're killing innocent people, not giving the person a chance to show what their real motive is. And we're going to see that today, and that's a fatal mistake. Jumping to conclusions. We'll talk about that. The police do that a lot. They do jump to conclusions, but anybody who's been alive for very long knows that when you jump to conclusions, you're going to be wrong much of the time. It's not a good way to make decisions, but deadly decisions can be made by jumping to conclusions. And so today we're going to look at the example of the police killing or murder, really, of Philando Castile in Minnesota. Let's see here. On Wednesday, July 6th in 1960 in Falcon Heights, Minnesota, Diamond Reynolds, that's his girlfriend's name, finished her shift at the dollar store and picked up her 4-year-old daughter, Deanna, from preschool. At 7:30 p.m., they went to the Cub food store for groceries because they were going to have a dinner all together later that evening. Miss Reynolds' sister joined them. Miss Reynolds and her boyfriend, Philando Castile, waited. Miss Reynolds' boyfriend, Philando Castile, waited in the car, planned to have the family dinner at home as late as 7:30 p.m. By approximately 9 p.m. on the way home, a traffic stop, ostensibly for a broken taillight, would change their lives forever. Officer Geronimo Yanez told investigators later that he stopped Castile not for a broken taillight, as he told the driver when the stop began, but because he thought Castile matched the description of a suspect in a convenience store robbery several days earlier. This turned out to be false, but it was jumping to a conclusion again. That meant that as he made this stop, his mind was being prepared that if he believed if he took that he could be possibly stopping an armed robbery suspect. As he approached the car, he said that he told investigators later that he smelled burning marijuana. So this upped the ante a little bit. Marijuana in itself is a common drug. But it was illegal at that time, I believe. And the dash cam video we're going to look at in clip 1 shows a quick how these events, this jumping conclusion, set up a turn of events into a quick, rapid escalation. Let me mention one more thing. Philando Castile is a black man. Now, the police officer and the jury who tried this case later denied that racism had anything to do with it. But we can't not ignore the fact that black males get stopped by policemen, mostly white policemen, on the basis of suspicion because they are black, many, many more times than white people did. It was reported that in Philando Castile had no criminal record, but it was reported that he was had been stopped as many as 18 times just because of suspicion for driving black. Okay, I'm going to ask in a minute the control room to show the first video clip of this traffic stop being made. I want to warn you, it contains graphic violence and profanity as people's emotions fly out, get out of control. So you may not want to have children watch it. Maybe you don't like to watch graphic violence, and I guess we really shouldn't watch too much. But I think you should watch this if you're an adult or an older, perhaps a teenager, so that you can come to understand what's really going on in our life, in our world. So if I can ask you to the control room to run clip 1 up to the pause and then pause it at the designated point.
Well, sir. Good. How are you? Good. Reason I pulled you over, your brake lights are out. So you only have one active brake light, and that's going to be your passenger side one. Your third brake light, which is up here on top, and then this one back here, is going to be out. You have your license and insurance?
I do have a firearm on me.
Don't reach for it then. Don't pull it out.
Stop. Okay, stop right there. The reason I'm stopping you right there is I want you to notice that was the last statement he made. I have a firearm on me and I am not pulling it out. He is not going for a gun by his own admission. And you'll hear at the end there also come in the voice of a female, that's his girlfriend, Miss Reynolds, saying, she starts the statement, he's not pulling it out, and when it completes, she also said he's licensed to carry. So pay attention to that. That was the last statement he made. I'm not pulling it out. With that, I guess we can continue, and I warn you, this is graphic, and there will be some profanity. But if you'll continue at the control.
Well, sir. Good. How are you? Good. Reason I pulled you over, your brake lights are out. So you only have one active brake light, and that's going to be your passenger side one. Your third brake light, which is up here on top, and then this one back here is going to be out. You have your license and insurance?
I do have a firearm on me.
Don't reach for it then. Don't pull it out.
I'm not pulling it out.
Don't pull it out. Don't pull it out! Don't move! Fuck! 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 Don't move! Don't move!
Oh my God, I'm shaking!
Don't move!
Don't move, baby!
Code 3! Get the baby girl out of here!
Don't move, sir.
Don't move!
Don't move, babe, please.
Fuck!
Whatever you
6921, get up! Back here, code 3! Shots fired! Fuck!
stay with me.
Medics, code 3!
We got pulled over for a busted tail light.
Okay, stop right there. I want you in this case to remember her words in the last clip. She said, remember those words. The woman said, her words are, stay with me, we got pulled over for a busted taillight. The reason those words are important is that she has a smartphone and she had the presence of mind to immediately start streaming this incident from this point on Facebook, which went around the world. So before we go to her streaming, if we can complete this clip now with the final statement by the officer on this clip, I want the audience to hear this. The officer's stating the fact that he didn't know where the gun was.
That's your license. And then told me he has a firearm. I told him not to reach for it. And when he went down to grab, I told him not to reach for it. And then he kept it right there, and I told him to take his hands off of it. And then he had his grip a lot wider than a wallet.
Okay.
And I don't know where the gun was. He didn't tell me where the fucking gun was.
Okay.
And then it was just getting hanky. He was just staring straight ahead, and then I was getting fucking nervous. And then I told him, I told him to get his fucking hand off his gun.
Okay. Okay. Is everybody?
Fuck!
Okay, that's it. The point I want to make was, since he didn't know where the gun was, it implies he never saw a gun, and the gun was never visible. He wasn't going, so that's a point I want you to keep in mind. Okay, now, again, if we can go to clip 2 in a second, I want to warn you again that this is graphic. We're going to see the victim who has been shot. Philando Castile is in the driver's seat. He just had, well, let me point out the number of shots fired in that video. In the court, they counted 7 shots were fired at close range, point blank, by the police officer. The first 2 were fired in sideways through the side window, and then he stepped forward. He changed his position and moved forward and fired into the front, from the front, apparently 5 more shots. So we're going to see now Diamond Reynolds streaming live in the moments after the shots, the aftermath, to Facebook, because she was angry. She wanted America to see what was happening, and I give her credit for that. You'll find out she has some character here as we go through her clips. She was always respectful to the police officers, as we should be. Romans 13 says to respect the authorities, and even because they're appointed by God, and we all sort of know that, but they also have don't carry the sword in vain. They can hurt you with it. That's another reason, because of fear, we should respect them too. But that doesn't mean, in God's scheme of things, that that they should use that authority wrongly to kill innocent people. So let's go now. So this begins to show some of Miss Reynolds' well, I consider it her character. She's showing moral courage in streaming this, clear thinking, and respect for the officers. If you can do clip number 2, please. You will see here Philando lies in the driver's seat. He's not conscious. Remember, he has as many as 7 bullets in him, probably. And the officer's gun, you will see, still pointing in the window. The officer is still shook up. So if you can run.
Stay with me. We got pulled over for a busted tail light in the back. And the police he's covered. He killed my boyfriend. He's licensed. He's licensed to carry. He was trying to get out his ID and his wallet out his pocket, and he let the officer know that he was He had a firearm and he was reaching for his wallet, and the officer just shot him in his arm. We're waiting for a back. I will, sir. No worries. I will.
Fuck!
He just shot his arm off. We got pulled over on Larpener.
I told him not to reach for it. I told him to get his hand open.
You told him to get his ID, sir, and his driver's license. Oh my God, please don't tell me he's dead. Please don't tell me my boyfriend just went like that.
Keep your hands where they are, please.
Yes, I will, sir. I'll keep my hands where they are. Please don't tell me this, Lord. Please, Jesus, don't tell me that he's gone. Please don't tell me that he's gone. Please, officer, don't tell me that you just did this to him. You shot 4 bullets into him, sir. He was just getting his license and registration, sir.
Get the female passenger out.
Get the car right now with your hands up.
Okay, with that, they're taking Diamond Reynolds leaves the car. They handcuff her and will take her to another police car. Basically. Now, let me make a few comments. I'm quoting some after the trial, the New York Times. I don't agree with the New York Times on very few things, but I do agree with them on this. They produced an article of expert comments of what of this evidence we're seeing. Let me see if I can find the source of that. Somewhere I should have it in something. I just want to give them credit. These quotations were from the New York Times, people they interviewed about what we just saw. About Philando's, the incident we just saw now. When Philando said, I have a firearm and I'm not getting it out. His last words on tape, on the dash cam video. Okay, this is from Paul Butler, a law professor at Georgetown University, former federal prosecutor. He said the victim, that's Philando, the victim did everything right, everything he was supposed to do. The victim was very respectful, very polite, letting the officer know what he was going to do, but none of that made a difference, unquote. A second quotation came from, Geoffrey Albert, professor of University of South Carolina, studying high-risk police activity and police violence. He said, quote, the driver apparently trying to be honest and straightforward thought, I'll be a good guy and this will be over and this will be over. But what was happening in the officer's mind was evidently different. And again, this is the reason I told you about jumping to conclusions in the beginning. This officer's thinking was kind of prepped by the fear that he might have be encountering a robbery suspect, which was not true. This was not the car in the robbery a few days earlier. And I mentioned, so jumping to conclusion in an immature mind, a mind that is not governing itself thinkingly, intelligently, can set you up to act on that conclusion and make tragic mistakes. I pointed out that the officer fired one or two shots through the window, then he changed position. Okay. Here's the quote now, quoted from Glenda Hatchett, a lawyer for the Castile family, said this to the New York Times, was quoted in there. I believe that he panicked, the officer, I believe that the officer panicked and was totally out of control, and that because of that, Philando lost his life. He had concerns about the officer. If the officer had concerns about the weapon, he should have said then, show me your hands. Put both of your hands on the steering wheel, unquote, which is a more common practice. So okay, where else? Okay, now I said we went through clip 2 where Phil was laying unconscious. Okay. Now let's see if what any other comments I could make on this. I pointed, okay. We saw Diamond Reynolds streaming live to Facebook. Now, let's see my papers here. I got a lot of papers. We're going to go to the next series of four rather short clips. They're not graphic. These are heartbreaking because they, as I said, when they took Miss Reynolds out of the police car, they handcuffed her and walked her down to a second squad car in the back seat with handcuffs, and her daughter was in there. And this is going to be several short clips from of her being with her daughter immediately after the incident in the second squad car. I want to say something to those of you, though, who are against the black and the NFL players who are protesting these police shootings by kneeling for the Constitution, for the Star-Spangled Banner. Kneeling is not an insult, by the way. We kneel to God. That is not, what would you say, disgrace or insult. But those of you who care more about having them stand for the national anthem, you are turning your back away from these victims of what they are standing for, what the NFL players are trying to bring to our consciousness and get us concerned about. And this police violence. And when you do this, I think you should be. I think we should be concerned if we have that attitude, because what it reminds me of is in the Bible where Jesus talked about the parable of the sheep and the goats. The sheep, the goats were those persons who in judgment, he said, I wasn't hungry and you didn't feed me. So what I'm saying here, we're going to see some little ones. This daughter is a little one being affected by this. And when you turn away from the NFL players, you're not helping these little ones. And I fear, and I hope not, God forbid, but I hope not, God won't say to you one day, as you did it not to these, as you didn't support these, you did it not to me. Because he identifies with the little ones. He identifies with the oppressed. So, with that in mind, can we run clip 3? That clip, you see the little 4-year-old daughter saying, I'm here, heartbreaking, saying, I'm here with you. The mother was screaming out in disbelief again. I have to warn you, there's probably some profanity in these two. If we can go to clip number 4. Listen to what the daughter says.
Mom, please stop saying cuss words and screaming because I don't want you to get shielded.
Okay, give me a kiss. My phone just died, that's all.
I could keep you safe.
It's okay, I got it, okay? Come here. I can't believe they just did that. Damn, there's nowhere I could take these bitches off?
No, please, no. I don't want you to get shielded.
Turn around and grab something real quick.
Mom, Daddy, they not gonna shoot me, okay?
I'm just scared.
I'm already in handcuffs.
Don't take them off. If you take them off and you
All right.
everything's
That's
fine.
694. You're going to put a 612. Take a boy thing.
I wish this town was safer. The other towns, we would live in it.
That's true.
I don't want it to be like this anymore.
Tell that to the police, okay? When they come, okay? Tell.
Okay, very good. Those little child's, the heart of a little child is so heartbreaking. And this is when you turn away from the NFL players who are supporting these people, these victims. I just hope that, God is generous to you and you're not turning away from him too, because he identifies with the underdog. Okay, clip number 5, we're going to hear the little girl again.
I want ice cream, have our dinner, have a great fun time together. Now that he's gone, he might be gone forever.
Don't think like that. Don't talk like that.
No, because I'm serious. He might be gone forever. And if he be gone forever, we're going to miss him very much.
I'm gonna...
Okay, the only words to describe this are heartbreaking. And the next and last clip in the squad car is going to show more of Diamond Reynolds, what I consider her spiritual maturity. There are several places in these videos, I can't show them all, where she prays, but she prays like someone who knows God. And this will be, she hasn't yet given up her faith. She knows that Philando, God can keep Philando alive, despite how much he's been shot, despite how he looked. Her faith in that can happen is still alive because she has some mature faith in God. And that will come out in this final squad car clip. If we can run clip number 6, please.
The charger haven't been on it. I haven't want to been died.
I'm just... Let's pray. God, I ask that you wrap your arms around Phil with the blood of Jesus. Lord, I ask that you heal him. Heal every wound, everything that's hurting him. God, I ask that you nurture him. Wrap his arm, wrap your arms, wrap your love, wrap everything around him that needs to be wrapped around him in order to heal right now. Because, Lord, without him, his family will love him. I will miss him, Lord. This is not his time to go, Lord. He has did no wrong, Lord. For he has flaws, Lord, but we all do, Lord. Please, Lord, can we just get justice? Because at the end of the day, Lord, these police cannot just go around shooting people, Lord. He was not doing anything in the wrong, Lord. And we know this, Lord. Please, God, just let him be alive, Lord. Lord, please don't let this be the last time I'm here breathing or seeing of him, Lord. Because with you, Lord, all things are possible, Lord. Without you, Lord, nothing is possible. We're able to live through each day, Lord. So I ask that you wrap your arms around him, wrap your arms around his loved ones and everyone, Lord, and just bless him, hold him, Lord. Heal him, heal his body, Lord. Please don't let this be the end, Lord.
Okay, there again, Diamond has faith, a kind of mature level of faith. She hasn't given up hope yet. Okay, now later on that evening, I think it was that evening, when we started to declare, there was a criminal interrogation of Diamond Reynolds about the events. I have 3 clips from that, and it's in the later part of this that he finds out that Phil has actually died. But clip number 7 is not too long, and it describes how short the conversation with the police officer was, and how quick the shots were. So if we can play clip number 7.
He walked to the car. He asked my boyfriend, "Hi, sir, did you know that your back tail light was out?" My boyfriend stated, "No, I didn't know my back tail light was out." And then the officer, "However, do you have license and registrations?" My boyfriend stated, "Yes, however, I do have license and registrations." He said, "Can you put your hands up in the air, please?" And then he said, "Can you pull out your license and registration?" My boyfriend said, "Officer, I have a gun on me." And before he can do anything, he said, "Don't reach." But he was already supposed to be reaching for his license and registration. And in the process of him reaching for his license and registration, he's telling the officer, "Officer, I do have a firearm on me." And he's saying, now that my boyfriend told him that he has a firearm on him as he was reaching for his registration and his license, which is in his back pocket, the gun was in his way and he wasn't able to get to his license and registration. And the officer, already with his gun blazing, cocked and everything, "Don't move, don't move," and took off. And that was it.
Okay, the officer was unwilling to take a risk. Now, here's the problem here in these kind of police shootings of people who don't deserve to be shot. There might be something that threatens the officer. There is usually some, or an excuse, but they have to be willing, if they're going to serve and protect, they have to be willing to take a risk to let that individual play out in his behavior and show whether he's actually going to be a danger or not. What they're doing is they're trying to protect themselves, they're jumping to a conclusion, not giving the person a chance to show their intentions, and killing them. And as I said, when you jump to conclusions, you're going to be wrong a lot of the time. Anybody who's been around a lot already knows that. And when you jump to conclusions with deadly force, it's going to be deadly too. So this points to something else. The laws governing police use of deadly force need to require, we'll talk about this later, or perhaps in the part 2 of this show, the laws governing the use of deadly force by police right now tend to be written that if a reasonable officer feels fear to his life or bodily injury, he can use deadly force. But what we're seeing happening is officers who are not reasonable act on unreasonable fears. They don't give the person a chance, and we have these tragedies. So there are other things that need reforms that need to be done too. Okay, next we'll go to clip number 8 in a minute, and in this clip, the interrogator is going to ask her to go over it again and give a second-by-second account of events in series.
Okay, I just want to, this is hard, but I want to go through kind of second by second, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. So you get pulled over, it's 8:45 roughly, 3 people in your car. What kind of car was it?
A white, old school Chevy Caprice.
Okay, older sedan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
90-something.
And it's Phil's or maybe registered?
It's Phil's, it's very raggedy.
Okay. And the first officer to approach the vehicle was the one that eventually shot, and he approached on the driver's side window.
That is correct.
And he had what you described as a 60-second conversation with Phil, wherein he asked, do you know why I stopped you? He described that the taillight was out. Phil was unaware of that. He asked for license and registration. Phil said, yes, I have that. And then what happened?
He told him that he had a firearm on him, and as he was getting back...
So let's stop right there.
Okay.
Did he say that as he was moving his hands to get his license and registration?
Yeah.
And then, as that motion was happening, and he was telling the officer, what did the officer say?
Stop moving! Stop moving! Boom, 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 boom!
Okay. And it happened that fast?
Just like that.
So he only made one motion. He didn't raise his hands.
He didn't do nothing. He couldn't do... He was like...
But see, earlier, I'm just trying to make sure that I get this clear. Earlier you said...
He started off with his hands in the air because that's how the officer...
Well, that's how the traffic stop started. Okay.
That's how it started. He said, put your hands in the air. Well, okay, his hands was in the air. All of our hands was in the air.
Do you have license and registration yet?
Do you have... And he said, yes.
And then he said...
As he said yes, and he's going to reach for it, he said, he was having, I have a firearm on me.
Okay, now you're reaching to the front.
Well, I don't know how guys do it, but
just for the benefit of the listener, you're reaching towards the front of your belt.
He has it here. He keeps it here.
So right above...
It's not easy. It's easier to get it out if it was right here. He has it...
Right in the top of his groin?
Yeah,
okay.
Right here.
And he was reaching in an area you described kind of by the hip bone?
Yeah, because that's his back pocket.
Okay, so he's reaching...
His wallet was in his back pocket.
Okay, so he's reaching for what you think is his back pocket?
Right, because he had the license and registration. He keeps everything. He has a big, fat wallet. He keeps license, registration. He keeps everything in his wallet. Credit cards, money, everything in his wallet.
It's a guy thing. I get that.
I don't understand it, but he keeps it in there. And he was reaching for it, but it's so damn fat. He sags his pants. He couldn't get the thing out his thing.
So Phil's a big guy?
No, he's skinny.
Oh, okay.
He's skinny as hell. Okay. Tall.
All right. And so it was just the one motion. Mm-hmm. And did the officer see the weapon, or do you think...
No, he didn't see it because it wasn't visible.
Because he was wearing what kind of clothes?
He had a long shirt on.
Okay.
He had his pants. His back of his pants was sagging because his butt always is just out. And then his belt where his gun was actually up to where it needed to be.
Okay. Okay. And so the extent of the conversation was Phil just offering one time, I have a weapon?
Yep.
What was his exact words?
He said, I have a firearm. That was his words.
Period.
Period.
Okay.
And then the officer, stop moving. Boom, boom, boom.
Okay.
He let off more rounds than he let out words.
Oh, okay, everyone. Now we're coming to the ninth and last clip. It'll be about 8 minutes long. In this, it's heartbreaking because here's the clip where Diamond Reynolds is told that Phil has died. And the change in her, she goes to grief. But it's heartbreaking because throughout this thing, she has had faith and hope. That faith has given her hope in God's power. She knew what God could do. But now she knows that he died. And so with that, we'll run clip number 9.
On dates before all that, yes.
You know what caliber?
9mm.
Is that the only one?
Only one, yes.
Okay.
That he's ever had around me.
You know what kind of gun was the manufacturer?
Nah, I don't know the manufacturer. I just know it's a 9. It's black. I don't touch it. I don't hold it. I don't.
Have you shot it at the range?
No, we have. He shoots his gun and he buys one for me to or rent one. Yeah.
Okay.
He likes to shoot his own stuff.
All right.
But it was not visible. His shirt was covering it. He had a belt on. It wasn't out. It was not visible.
Okay, so
what they say, because I know you just got the text.
yeah, I don't think, Phil's died, I got some bad news, and I'm sorry it happened. Did he say anything after he was shot?
He didn't say anything. His eyes rolled in the back of his head and he just looked at me.
Okay.
He didn't say anything. There was nothing to say.
I'm really sorry. It's terrible.
This officer got to go home to his family. He took him away from us. He'll be right there. It's not fair. It's not fair. Please get me out of here.
We can do that.
How would you like to be taken to the hospital? Do you have a...
I don't have any ride. They took my cell phone, my house keys. I don't even know how I'm getting home in the...
We'll get that stuff back to you. Your cell phone, we'll get that back to you.
I want to go to the hospital so I can see him for the last time.
House keys, you said they took those?
They got my purse. They got everything.
Can we call someone right now, Diamond?
I don't have any numbers to call anyone.
Okay, I can maybe send a squad car over to a house and have someone communicate with you, you know. Like have an officer go to a house.
There's no house to go to. I don't have nobody but my boyfriend. I don't have nobody.
Your mom or...
No, my mom lives in a different state. He was all I had.
So you have no family?
No family, but my sister who was at the scene.
Where did she go to?
I don't know. They took my phone. I didn't even get to talk to her.
Okay, so you need your keys to get back into your apartment.
And I need my phone for sure to call people.
So your sister who was dropped off before the traffic stop?
Yes.
Okay.
She came back. Once I got on Facebook, they found out where I was and came.
So she came back and so she wasn't there.
He killed him. So now what? Where do we go from here? Because there's going to be lawsuits going to be in order. There's discrimination and there's racism. There's a lot of things that's going to play now because of this.
So here's what Mike and I and what our colleagues do is we go and do interviews and we talk to everyone, and then we have a crime scene team at the scene of this event, and they're going to do a full forensic crime scene.
Well, make sure they don't remove his gun off of him and try to make it seem like something that it wasn't, because I already know how the system is. I already know how they tamper with evidence. I already know how they do. And they took a life. You guys' department, your police...
We don't work for the...
Well, okay, I'm sorry. The people who are supposed to serve and protect us took an innocent man's life today. 9 days before his birthday.
Yep, that's a fact, and that's sad, and we're sorry about it. And our job is to find out what happened.
I hope that police officer is going to be fired or something's going to happen with no pay. He should not be allowed to be still working if he don't know how to control his feelings, his emotions, and anything that has to do with taking innocent people's lives.
And if that's found to be true, then there'll be some sort of training, punishment, who knows what. But that's after the investigation. And when we're done with the investigation, we give it to the Ramsey County prosecutor, and then they're going to have a grand jury, and they'll figure out what happened. So there's a lot of evidence we have to go through.
So how do you figure...
Guns, the bullets, the cameras, whether cameras rolling, your phone has to be analyzed, because we got to pull that video off of your phone. All that evidence together is how we get a full picture, and the interview with you and your
well, the video ain't saved. It's just on Facebook.
Oh, it got posted immediately?
Yeah.
And it didn't get the shooting itself? It was right after?
Yeah, it was after.
Okay, but it still will provide something?
Because he told me don't move, so I couldn't pick my phone up in the midst of him doing that, because he would have shot me too, shit.
Okay. All right, well, I got to go find out where your purse is so we can get you your keys and get back in your apartment. Your phone, we're going to have to take it and download. Even though you say it's posted immediately, the phone still is kept in your flash memory.
Well, I have an iPhone. It's not. You know how Facebook goes live?
Oh, yeah.
I went live.
Okay, well, we'll take a look.
So you can just Facebook. You don't have to take my phone because it's not saved into the memory. iPhone don't. Y'all have iPhones. Yeah. If you go live on Facebook, that live video don't save to your phone. It only is on Facebook. Okay. And then once it gets shared, you know how that goes.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to end the tape portion of the statement. Before I do, is there anything else that's important for me to know as an investigator that we haven't talked about or mentioned?
There's nothing important other than he wrongfully killed a man and asked 2 questions at one time. Can I see your hands? Can I see your license and registrations?
As far as you know, there's no previous dealings between Phil and either one of his officers?
No, he never seen that man a day in his life.
All right, the time is now 23:48 hours.
I'm going to find out about your purse, find out where it is.
In my phone.
And then I'd like to run out with Deanna. Would you do me a favor? I know this is hard. I know you're in pain. You're at a child protection worker, so I worry about kids. Nothing we can do about what's already happened, but there's things we can do to make it worse. And I just want you to really...
He died on the scene.
Yeah, I think they loaded him in an ambulance and transported him and tried to revive him. But the word I just got was that he was deceased. So, but what I'd like you to consider, and I know this is just a lot going on in your brain, but I'm going to get a hold of you tomorrow, and I want to set up an appointment to have her interview as a witness, but more importantly, I want Mom, you, to talk to the medical staff who's dealt with kids that have had trauma before, and they have advice for parents on how not to make it worse. Because we can't undo what's been done. That's not an option, but we can.
But he still gets to go home to his family. He has no worries. He gets to come back to work as if he didn't take a life for no reason. I know the truth.
Okay. We investigate, we collect, we gather facts, and we are thorough. And if he broke the law, he's going to be accountable. And that's all there is to it. All right?
I can't believe my boyfriend.
It's a 10-year relationship?
Yes. I haven't been with anybody.
So if you
he didn't deserve this.
If you don't mind me asking, how your daughter's 4 or 5? So was there a break in the relationship?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And you guys got back together?
Yeah, we got back together.
You guys planning to get married right?
Yes, we was. Also having kids.
Okay.
Yes, we was.
Did he grow up in St. Paul?
Yes, he did.
So let me ask you some questions about his family. Do you really know anything about his parents?
Yes, his mom is in his life. His sister is a doctor.
Okay, thank you, Control Room. Good job. I just want to this is heartbreaking, both for her daughter. You saw the child's suffering, and now you saw her suffering. I have a hard time watching this. You know, it almost makes you doubt God. You know, how can God of love let these things happen? But you have to remember what God says about himself. Throughout the Bible, it says God is not willing that anyone should perish, but that all should reach eternal life. That implies that everything he does or allows to happen to people can help them reach that goal of eternal life. He's not trying to stop anybody. I believe he's sovereign in that sense. He wants, and God hates the shedding of innocent blood, even by policemen. He hates the oppression of widows, fatherless, and minorities. It says in the Bible. Finally, in Revelation 21:34, again, back to the nature of God, when he sets up his kingdom and people do, it says, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow, nor crying, neither shall they be any more, what's it say? Neither there should be any more, for the former things are passed away. The things we're seeing now in our world, the tragedies, not only this, but all over the world. God uses suffering to build strength in people too. If I extend a few minutes, set up, this is part one. For your information, got to find my place here. This show, the officer, what we have seen in this show is clear thinking, that we have had, what we have here is innocent people. These people don't act like guilty people. Okay, this is the clear thinking truth. It's the moral truth. At 35 years old, Philando Castile had no criminal record. He worked his way up in the cafeteria at St. Paul Magnet School. The governor questioned the shooting itself, and the prosecutor assailed the officer. The governor said he would try to do everything that justice be done. Yanez, the officer, was charged with manslaughter, with demonstrators decrying his actions. So we'll have to go into that in part two. The trial, he was acquitted, believe it or not. Despite the clear thinking, in part two, I will try to explain to you how the court, coercing the jurors to follow the instructions of the court, was able to dismiss this clear thinking and cause the jury to acquit the officer according to using the orders of the court, using following the instructions of the court, which doesn't make sense. We have to talk about that too. That's another problem. God gave this country 3 boxes to ensure that the people can maintain control over government authorities. One is the ballot box. The other is the ammo box. That's the Second Amendment. And the third is the jury box. The jurors, it's been constitutionally supported in American law and in English law. Jurors do not have to vote for a verdict against their conscience. And that's what happened in this acquittal. 2 of the jurors did not want to acquit the officer, but they were pressured by believing they had to go by the standards of the law and couldn't overrule the law with what their conscience was told them was right. So one member interviewed from the jury said, when they announced the verdict, they went back and saw the effect on the Castile family of this outrageous acquittal. They went back in the jury room and they were just, all they could do was look at each other in silence for about 5 minutes. They didn't think this was going to happen, apparently. So with that, look for part 2, and we'll discuss the jury proceedings and reforms that ought to be made. So Lord willing, we'll see you next time.
Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, help me stand. I am tired, I am weak, and I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. Hear my cry, hear my call, hold my hand, lest I fall. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. Take my hand, precious Lord.